So, hello everybody, this is Chris Addig, Veterans Law Blog. We are live here at the NOVA conference here in San Antonio, Texas, National Organization of Veterans Advocates. We are on day 75 of this conference.
Day a million, yeah.
Right. We've had a couple of really great live broadcasts here on Facebook. We talked with Patrick Clifford, a TDIU vocational evaluator, talked to you about helping you out on your TDIU claims and appeals. We had a chance to visit with board judge and the guy that's pushing the BVA forward technologically, James Ridgway, yesterday. And today I've got one of my favorite people and one of the other few folks that's online here educating veterans, probably even before I was.
Well, give or take.
Yeah,
right around the same time.
Probably. Yeah, he's Air Force veteran. We won't hold that against him. But he has gone on to do a lot of work with vocational rehab, or Voc Rehab benefits as they're known.
Yeah.
Traumatic brain injury. We're going to talk about all this stuff. I'm going to let Ben share some of his expertise. When I have questions about TBI, I go to Ben. When I have folks that have questions about Voc Rehab, I send them to Ben. And he's just a hell of a nice guy and a really smart guy too, with no love lost.
At least some people think so.
Right. Well, there's like 4 of us that think that, right?
Right, at least a couple.
But no love lost for the VA, so he fits in with our crowd here.
That's right.
In any event, thank you for coming on, Ben. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, definitely. So tell me, give me the background. Like, how did you get into this business of working with veterans?
So, little background. I am a disabled veteran myself and got out of the military after experiencing a traumatic brain injury and needing help and benefits for that. Didn't get the help and benefits I was supposed to receive and had to essentially research my own case over the course of many years. Became a journalist and started to dig in that way using FOIA and other resources. Created a Facebook forum called Disabled Veterans Chapter 31 Voc Rehab, and started working with vets on a regular basis to discuss Voc Rehab. At the time, this was around circa 2009, when not a lot of information was out there, and social media was kind of new. People just started to like to use Facebook, and started to really develop a web presence and exposing some of the fraud, waste, and abuse within the Department of Veterans Affairs, and more specifically, some of the false statements that Voc Rehab in particular, but also other VA employees make to veterans on a regular basis. So my big focus, while I do help veterans now that I'm an attorney, get benefits in that capacity, and also help veterans secure settlements related to federal malpractice if that comes up. I also dig in as a journalist to expose some of the, again, fraud, waste, and abuse within the Department of Veterans Affairs, expose issues related to traumatic brain injury, which is a hot button topic for me. Also stroke, medical malpractice within the Department of Veterans Affairs more broadly, and push VA to make reforms. So I'm also a lead contact for a lot of whistleblowers, and when they want to get their story out, they'll talk to me about how best to present it to the press, or we'll just have me write it and publish it so that the VA will get caught more quickly than going through the normal media channels, which can take months and months before it hits TV. So I'm kind of a lifeline of what's going on behind the scenes at VA through whistleblower leaks and everything else, and otherwise making sure that veterans get a square deal. My website's disabledveterans.org. Again, it's disabledveterans.org, and that's where I publish issues, again, fraud, waste, and abuse, lying to veterans, things like that. I write about that there, and also sell a book that pays for my research and my journalistic and policy endeavors at the Department of Veterans Affairs. It's called the Voc Rehab Survival Guide, and that's what I had created after my own experience, where Voc Rehab had misled me intentionally and made numerous statements that led me to believe that they wouldn't pay for law school. And after it would have been about 14 years, I was able to not only secure them paying for my undergrad at Northwestern University, which is pretty expensive, but also law school at the University of Minnesota, which is also very expensive, and then also my law practice that helps veterans sue the VA. So they also paid for that too. And I was very happy, and all in, they paid about $350,000 for my benefits, and now I sock it to them as frequently as I can.
And that's what's really impressive about that, is that you've been doing this work for any period of time. And many of you know this that have tried to get Voc Rehab benefits, is that there's all sorts of myths out there about what you can and can't get paid for. And,
right.
and you would hear time and again, they're not going to pay to go to law school. They're not going to pay to help you build a law practice. And Ben has shown that to be not correct.
Not correct at all.
It's there's a lot of folks on the blog here. We work a lot in the service-connected compensation areas, teaching vets how to improve their own claims and appeals. For those that aren't familiar with Voc Rehab, kind of hit an overview. What is Voc Rehab? Who's eligible?
So, generally speaking, Voc Rehab is a program that allows disabled veterans, so veterans who have a disability or are in that process of getting that sorted out, to get vocational training and support to get a job that's suitable with their aptitudes, abilities, and interests. And that training is really important for veterans who have been out for quite a long time. They don't have a GI Bill anymore, or veterans who have the GI Bill, but they need more support. So when I say more support, I'm referring to veterans who maybe want to have their own business and want somebody to pay to set that up. Veterans who maybe want to go to med school. Maybe they want to be trained to be a plumber. Maybe they want to go to law school like I did, or whatever. Voc Rehab is there to help them get rehabilitated into a field that is suitable with their interests and their abilities, basically. You have to have a disability rating. So generally speaking, they will approve you for the first appointment so long as you have a 20% disability rating or a 10% disability rating that has a kind of a substantial or serious impact on your ability to find work. And that program then, once you're approved, will pay for whatever it is that you're approved for. However, like many used car salesmen, they try to sell you the jalopy when really you want the Porsche. And maybe you're entitled to the Porsche, but they want to give you the jalopy because in this instance, they have a benefit from keeping their costs down. Unfortunately, that means that they're going to try to get veterans, shafted. You're going to end up with a training program or career that maybe isn't suitable for you or isn't as much as they might have done. So let's say they'll kick you off after a bachelor's degree and say that you can get a job with whatever the bachelor's degree is, even if your goal might have been to be a lawyer. Okay. And it's important to understand, and why I wrote the book, the Voc Rehab Survival Guide, it was important to highlight to all my readers exactly what the process should be when they're presenting their case when they first go in, because usually that's where veterans don't realize and they make a mistake in that the VA is conducting a forensic exam. And so whatever you're handing the Voc Rehab counselor can be and will be used against you if they can use it against you, and you know how VA is. So a lot of veterans don't realize that. They think, oh, I'm going in Voc Rehab counselor. This person must be my buddy. I'm going to go just barf on them about my whole situation. And a lot of times, bad counselors, at least, there are a lot of good ones, but the bad ones will nitpick and they'll pull through generally the negative evidence that a veteran might convey. And if they want to deny that veteran for whatever reason, they'll just highlight those elements of what was conveyed during that first meeting and then get denied or get lowballed. And so my goal in writing the guide and helping veterans on the Facebook forum is to make sure that veterans get in there for the first meeting the right way, and they show up kind of like for a job interview with all the materials in hand. And that's essentially what my goal was at the time when I had first written it.
So from the outset, and I hear this a lot. I hear a lot from vets that are either service connected at 100% on a scheduler basis, or who are receiving TDIU because they can't engage in substantially gainful activity because of their service-connected disabilities.
Right.
And so the thought process is, I'm not allowed to work. Right. I'm not allowed to have a business because I'm receiving this high amount of VA compensation. That's what I'm hearing is that that's not true, is that you can actually go through and use the Voc Rehab program to retrain yourself in another career, that you can use it to start your own business, which, if you know, is sheltered employment under TDIU. Right. In many cases, so you can receive both in some situations. Right. Is that a fair assessment? Or?
Yeah, it is. And a lot of counselors who are in the camp of what I call bad counselors. So you have, again, good counselors, bad counselors. The bad counselors will tend to kick veterans out of the program that do have 100% TDIU or are 100% generally through regular scheduler, and they will say there are no benefits for you. Yep. However, the program has benefits for veterans who can't work. It's avocational goals is what it's referred to as. And that can be an option of support, which is kind of similar in some ways to sheltered employment. But also, it'll pay for your business, whatever. Even if you, like me, I'm 100% P&T after my traumatic brain injury. And the program paid for my law firm. So, yeah, it can do anything, really, as long as the counselor is a good counselor.
So if somebody wants to start doing this, they're sitting here watching this video and they say, you know what, this Voc Rehab program is something I want to take advantage of. There's actually two birds flying
I see that.
I'm a little bit nervous they're going to come and be on camera here.
I think they may want to be famous real quick.
Yeah, hopefully they're not drones, right?
Right.
Anyway.
Right, they do have those, yeah.
If there's a veteran watching this that says, I think that I'm eligible for this Voc Rehab program, I want to learn about it, they can get the Voc Rehab Survival Guide from your website.
On the website, yep, disabledveterans.org. It's on the main page, along with news and other resources that are free for veterans. Again, the guide itself is not expensive, and it pays for me to go after the VA and investigate what they're doing and how they're defrauding veterans, which has been very useful. And in part, recently is kind of an example of the usefulness of what I do.
Patient zero.
Patient zero.
I'm going to jump in and just tell folks.
Yeah.
Listen to this story. This is amazing because what Ben has done is he has taken a knowledge skill set that he has, and he has translated in that to education for other veterans out there. And when obviously you pay to get this guide, and then what he does with that is he turns it around to help in more ways. And what he's done here with the story he's going to tell you in a minute about Patient Zero is simply phenomenal. It has led, as many of you know, to a situation where a lot of veterans are getting what's called equitable relief for the first time ever that I'm aware of in the VA system with their TBI claims. So listen carefully to this, because this is the kind of stuff many of you can do. You have skill sets writing, you have skill sets in comprehending and doing all the different things that you can do. Go through the Voc Rehab program and use the what I call the Ben Kraus model, not only to showcase your skill sets, but then to help other veterans in the process. So tell us about Patient Zero.
So Patient Zero came to me for a malpractice case initially. And in that instance, the Department of Veterans Affairs failed to diagnose and even notice his meningioma, which is an enormous tumor in your brain that grows over a long period of time. It can be linked to a traumatic brain injury in some examples, and there's medical evidence that supports that. He came to me he was very upset, an elderly gentleman who had a orange-sized tumor in his brain that was manifesting itself in numerous unfortunate ways. Went to the VA. VA didn't do an MRI, or didn't conduct an MRI or CT scan to verify what was going on, or if it may be a tumor. And he spent the next 18 months having many problems and being misdiagnosed and being put on very toxic steroids and having a lot of issues. So he had come to me with this particular problem. In looking through his record, realized that the veteran had experienced a traumatic brain injury when he was in service many decades earlier, but VA was using or selecting unqualified doctors to continue to deny his service connection for TBI. The reason that this is significant is that if a veteran has a service connection and VA gives them treatment for that service connection that results in an exacerbation of their condition, it is possible to get an increased disability rating and selectively get a tort too, and you get paid for both. Normally, you don't get that. Normally, you get an 1151 claim for the tort, and then that's taken out of the other part of the payment that you would receive in the settlement. In this instance, we were able to get service connection for the TBI because after investigation, we realized that two of the doctors that were being selected by VA and highlighted over our own experts, who were experts in the field of neurology and neurosurgery, they only used a family practice doctor and an environmental doctor who were CMP examiners. Because of the data that I'd collected as a journalist over the course of the previous 2 years, we learned that they weren't certified and that they weren't qualified and competent to give not only the medical exam, but to understand the medical literature that supports a brain tumor after a TBI, so secondary to the TBI. In this instance, we were able to get the veteran service connection. Now he's at, I believe, 100%, and gave me permission to talk about his case openly, and it became a big scandal. So what we ended up exposing as a result of this instance, in this example, is that TBI generally had been misapplied, or the policies to detect it had been misapplied for benefits. And the veteran, in this case, resulted in detecting 25,000 different cases and instances where from 2007 to 2015, the Department of Veterans Affairs had been selecting unqualified doctors, and in my opinion, they had knowingly done so, and I believe it was fraud, and fraud against veterans, but nonetheless, they had been selecting doctors that were unqualified to conduct the exams, which resulted in low balls or zero ratings or no rating for TBI, even if concussion was in the record. which is what we experienced in my veteran or patient zero's case, where concussion was clearly in the record and circled. And we went to bat on that particular issue, won his benefits. And then as a result of that scandal and that exposure, 25,000 veterans were then eligible to go get a new exam and potentially get an earlier effective date back to the date of the screw up. So it wasn't just, I get a new exam right now. VA, for this year, you have 2 months left on this equitable relief package. You can get back to the date of the mistake that VA engaged in. And that is a sizable amount of disability compensation, especially for veterans who received a 0 rating, let's say, and maybe they had a 30 or 40% rating, but they should have ended up with 100% as a result of the TBI or the residuals of the TBI, rather. And it's a huge amount of money that VA robbed veterans of. And apparently a lot of veterans are still experiencing problems getting their exams, or they're being written in a particular way, written to deny. And so it's an unfortunate reality, but nonetheless, the saga continues, and I continue to follow it and work to expose it. It resulted in the VA winning the Golden Padlock Award for being the most secretive agency of 2016. And the reporter that I worked with to expose this won a multitude of awards, I think including the Peabody, for his work, and one of the leading investigative journalist awards that you can receive as well. So he won at least 2 awards, and I think an Emmy, as a result of reporting on our story.
Now, you mentioned that there's a limited time left to take advantage of this through
Right.
the equitable relief program. Mm-hmm. Do you, as an advocate, as an attorney now, work with veterans in that situation that say, hey, I got lowballed on my TBI exam, or it was done by, the candy striper down at the VA Medical Center? Do you work with them to fix that?
So I do work with them to fix that if they come to me, and if they don't, then I don't help.
Where would somebody go if they wanted that help?
Well, if they wanted that help, you can go to disabledveterans.org and just look at some of the free materials that I published that are the fruits of my labor in the FOIA requests that I received, including the training videos for CMP examiners and what they're really supposed to do, the other manuals, the DBQ, different things that VA is supposed to do that they don't want public. That's on my website, so you can go get it. But aside from that, if you need legal help for TBI or related, you would go to my law firm website, which is benjaminkrauselaw.com. So Benjamin is spelled Benjamin. Kraus is spelled Krause, law.com. Go there, fill out a consult form, and I'll take a look and let you know if I have any feedback for you, or if you need representation, we can talk about that too.
That's good. Just so you folks don't have to worry about writing that down, when this live cast is over, the recording will be available on the Facebook page.
Right.
In the first comment, I'll go ahead and put the links that Ben's mentioning, so you can find disabledveterans.org, his law firm's website, the materials for Voc Rehab, and all the other stuff that we've talked about. And then if you're one of the blog premium members, you will, of course, be watching this video from your premium account, and we'll have all the links below it, so you can just click on it and go right to Ben's website.
Yeah.
So, Ben, I really appreciate you coming on and talking to folks, and thank you all for watching.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's great.
Yeah, I'd love to have you again. We'll get you a copy of the video, and you can critique my interviewing skills. But I do hope you come back on next time around.
Absolutely.
And we can talk a little bit more in depth about some of your cases. And
sounds like a plan.
Go forward from there.
Love it.
Take care, sir.
Sounds good, buddy.
Thanks for your time.
Right. Yeah.
Bye.